So I just would really like to use the presentation to give you quite a high-level overview of the EPAR summary, what it is and what it contains. Because we're running late, and I also think that many of you are fairly familiar with the document, so I won't go into too much detail. But I would like to focus in on the sections of the summary which deal with benefits and risks, because I think that's the most closely related area to the topics that you've been discussing today, and it's an area where we're constantly looking to improve our practices, and your feedback is always useful. So just to begin with then, there's a legal requirement for us to publish a public-friendly summary of every European public assessment report. So every centrally authorized medicine has an EPAR, and that EPAR contains a summary which is written in public-friendly language. The main purpose of the summary is to explain how the CHMP assessed the medicine and the reasons for its approval, and also to describe the conditions of use of the medicine. So it covers what the medicine is used for and how it's used, but importantly, it's not a practical guide or a practical tool for using the medicine. It's important to remember that as distinct from the product information. It's just a summary of the assessment. The EPAR summary is prepared at the end of the whole assessment process, so after the CHMP has adopted its opinion recommending the approval of a new medicine. That's when the EPAR summary gets written. And it's published at the same time as and together with the full EPAR on the EMA website after the Commission decision has been adopted approving the medicine. So because it needs to be publicly accessible and understandable, the agency has taken the approach of making it available in all EU languages. So the summary is written in English and then translated into all official EU languages. And we've also taken the approach of keeping it updated. So it's a living document. Every centrally authorized medicine has one EPAR summary which is updated after it's authorized. You can find the summary together with the EPAR on the EMA website as a PDF document, but it's also integrated into the site as a web page. So perhaps the easiest thing is just to look at a screenshot. So it's what you see, the first thing you see when you look up any medicine on the EMA website. It's the information is on the tab called About on the EPAR, and it's got those expandable headings that you see. And it's sitting there as part of the EPAR together with the other parts, so including the product information under a separate tab and the assessment report, which is under the last tab. So the content of the summary is based on the finalized assessment report from the CHMP and the finalized product information. So everything that we put in the EPAR is in principle traceable back to some statement in the documents from the CHMP. In order to write the summaries using public-friendly language and to make sure that that is done at a level which is consistent between different summaries, we have a number of tools, including the main one, which is a glossary, a rather large glossary that we've developed in-house of medical terms expressed in lay language, and which we're constantly adding to. We'll also have a writing guide. I mean, this is an area of constant contention, really. What is the right level of language to use, and what are the right terms to use if we want to translate medical terms into lay language? And that's one of the reasons that we consult patient representatives on every EPAR summary that we write. So one of the ways that we have of trying to ensure we get the language right is by consulting you. And we also have a template for the summary, which sets the structure and also some rules for the content. And this was developed some 6 or 7 years ago through quite a long consultation process, including patient representatives. The summary is about 2 to 2.5 pages long, and it's in a Q&A format, and you might know it very well, but the order that it follows is shown on this slide. So what the medicine is and what it's used for, how it's used, how it works, how it's been studied and what benefits have been shown, what the risks are, why it's been approved, and also what measures are being taken to ensure safe and effective use. So I should just mention that we're currently revising the template, but they're just minor adjustments that we're making, and this overall structure is not going to be changed. But I did present our proposals at the last PCWP in September, and that's been consulted with yourselves.
Question. That last, the measures that are being taken to ensure safe and effective use, does that, are you going to be notifying us that it's going to have a little black triangle, for example?
That was suggested, I think, at the PCWP. Perhaps it was you, Francois, who mentioned that, highlighting the additional monitoring status. Yeah, sure. Well, we haven't decided, but it's just worth remembering, as I said, the summaries. It's a document, but it's also a web page, and it's sitting there with the EPAR. And you might be familiar with some of the other icons that we use to identify certain status, such as conditional approval in exceptional circumstances and orphan drugs. So there are other ways, apart from inserting text or something into the document as such, there may be other ways of doing that using the website, using an icon to identify. But I'm going to come also back to that last question because, in fact, well, there's more to say about that, which I'll come back to. So I just want then to focus on these last 4 sections, which is where benefits and risks are discussed. So in terms of presenting the benefit of a medicine, we do this in the section of the summary that describes the studies that were carried out. So our standard for the EPAR summaries is to just describe the pivotal studies supporting the application. And when we describe those, we give the overall patient numbers, the treatments given, the duration, and we try to describe the primary endpoint only. So in every summary you'll see us talking about the main measure of effectiveness used in the studies, and that's meant to be describing the primary endpoint. And so we give the primary endpoint results, and I've just wanted to take this is one example just to try to help illustrate how we do this as a medicine for myelofibrosis. And well, just that first sentence gives you a flavour of how we describe the primary efficacy endpoint results. And also in terms of presenting the patient numbers, just wanted to highlight that we try to give percentages which meet the primary endpoint, but also try to give the total patient numbers as well, because we think this is sometimes easier to understand. Then in terms of the risk, the next question is, what is the risk associated with the medicine? And we base the information in this section on side effects, essentially, and contraindications. And in fact, there's a lot of information on risk included in the product information for every medicine. We can't obviously reflect all of that, so we've had to take a decision on which information we're going to reflect in this very high-level summary, and this is the approach that we're taking so far. So you have this text based on it's actually based on section 4.8 of the SPC, where there is a summary of the safety profile, and we try to base our lay language summary on that. So in this example, which is a medicine for overactive bladder syndrome, we've stated the most common side effects, and as well as serious but uncommon side effects, because the SPC was written in a way that allowed us to identify those very easily. Was there a question?
With the uncommon side effects, this is only in a descriptive manner. There, you don't use any numbers to illustrate that. Whereas with the most common you do, is that on purpose, or is that?
It's unfortunately, like many things with the EPAR summaries, we're relying on the information that's available in the SPC, and sometimes those details might just not be there. If it's particularly uncommon, it might not be possible to estimate. So that's why this is written in this way. Actually, in practice, you'll see a lot of EPAR summaries that don't go this far. They will only list the most common side effects, and that's because that's all we've really had to go on. And in those cases, we base ourselves on the tabulated list. There's a table in SPC 4.8, and there you can just identify the most common group of side effects. So
It depends on your basic document.
Yes, it does. And then we will always give a reference then to the product information, to the package leaflet, in order to have an exhaustive list of side effects. Because, as I said, it's just not possible to give exhaustive information in the summary, and we don't want the summary to be misinterpreted as some kind of practical guide for using a medicine. Then we'll always state the contraindications as well in this section. So I just wanted also to mention that there is other information about safety in the EPAR summary. For example, in the section on how the medicine is used, where we give the main dosing recommendations, we'll mention if there's a need for dose adjustment in certain patient populations, hepatic or renal impairment, or elderly, or where there is data to show what the necessary dose reduction is. But, there's a lot of information, for example, on drug interactions or use in pregnancy or storage and handling. There's lots of safety information which we can't mention. The next section is on the reasons for the approval. So why has the medicine been approved? And this also is an opportunity to flag up the most important information considered for the actual assessment and the final decision in terms of benefit and risk. So we'll state the CHMP view on the most important benefit that was seen in the study. So that will typically be the importance of the primary endpoint results, but also any additional benefits that were seen in the studies, which will normally come from secondary endpoints. And in this case, it was quality of life, which was considered to be an important benefit of the medicine. We'll also mention any important uncertainties which the CHMP took into account. And in this case, it was the effect in terms of overall survival and also disease progression. And then finally, any important safety concerns which were taken into account and considered for the final decision, and the CHMP's position on these. So here we've highlighted a risk of infections which are considered acceptable but need monitoring, and other risks including bleeding. And then we'll end by stating that overall the benefits are greater than the risks. Then coming back to this question about measures being taken, our current standard is actually only to include this question when there are additional post-marketing obligations on the marketing authorization holder, which were discussed a bit earlier on today. So this example is Nexibrid, which is for debridement treatment in burns victims. And it's just trying to illustrate how we here would flag up any need for training or educational materials. I think this was included, for this medicine. Any longer term studies, and we would also flag up if there needs to be a patient alert card or reminder card, etc. So any of those measures that have been included as part of the authorization, they get mentioned here. And what we're proposing actually in future is, in order to raise awareness of the risk management plan, to have this question as standard in every single EPAR summary, and to include the text that I've put in blue here, just to state that the risk management plan exists for the product, and if there are only routine risk management measures, just to include a standard template text, which I'm showing on this slide. This is it's a proposal at the moment that we're still discussing and maybe can improve, but it's supposed to refer to the routine risk management measures. And then to add a paragraph to that if there are additional risk management measures, which would be drawn from the risk management plan. So this would be new for us in terms of how we write the summaries, drawing directly from the risk management plan. But in practice, I think the content would be actually very similar to what we're already doing, because a lot the most important measures will also be obligations on the marketing authorization holder as part of the approval. Just a final word on the fact that the summary is a living document, as I said, so it's updated over time following authorization with any change to the marketing authorization that impacts on the text of the summary. So if there is any change to the indication, a new or extended indication, we'll update the study section to explain what benefit was seen in that new or extended indication. Any new safety-related information will be included in the summary if it impacts on the published text. So the risk section that I showed you will always be updated if there are new side effects included in the product information from the most common or serious categories, contraindications, and there may be some cases where particularly important warnings could be included there. Then if there's any change otherwise to the indication, the pharmaceutical form or strength through a line extension, to the posology or any additional risk management measures, the relevant sections of the summary would also be updated for those. And then lastly, if there's any reappraisal of the overall benefit-risk balance, which can happen in the context of safety referrals that I think you were discussing earlier, but also in the future PSURs, I think you were discussing the benefit-risk assessment that will take place in the context of those. That could then lead us to update this section where we're talking about why the medicine is approved and currently marketed. So just to finish then, I hope I've just been able to show you that the summary is our attempt to try to summarize in a very short document the full European Public Assessment Report, which is very long and very detailed. It's able to give a very high-level overview, really, of the benefits and the risks of a medicine and the reasons for approval. It's a living document which is kept updated after authorization, and we're hoping to increase awareness of the RMP through that. And as I mentioned, you are involved in the review of all the new EPAR summaries before authorization. Just to make you aware that practical guidance is available in the training manual on that. And I also mentioned that you're also involved in the review of safety communications, which our team also writes. So if there's an important safety referral, we won't just update the EPAR summary for a medicine, we'll also issue a separate Q&A on the safety issue, going into more detail, and you're involved in reviewing those too. So any further information that you might need is available in the training manual or directly from us or from Natalie. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thank you, Daniel. Francois? If we go back on slide number 5, which is what benefit has Jacuzzi shown, Jacavy shown during the studies, Jacuzzi. It mentions the first study and then the second study. I think an improvement could be to, as a footnote somewhere, but to mention the reference of the study in question from the Udracity register, so that the reader who wants to learn more can refer to this register even more when the results are published, and maybe the same for the studies which are requested after marketing authorization, if reference when available on the NCEP list of studies could also be mentioned with a short explanation of what it is, not to confuse even more the readers about what these complex numbers are. But I think that would be useful, because in the full EPAR, the Udracity numbers, they don't appear for the moment. We have the names of the studies as provided by the companies, the STAR trial, the UPLALA trial, but never the Udracity number. And I think the reader could be interested to make the link with the Udracity register.
I think it's a very good point. We will look at it. But maybe it applies as well for both. For the Albert?
Oh, it's
Richard?
Just being an ordinary patient for a minute, it's sometimes very confusing to know what information is available on any drug. And if you just look here, we've got package leaflets, summary of product characteristics, signal detection, risk management plans, post-authorization safety studies. Is there any way that we can link, like in your thing, to link in links to go to the other things? And I think that would be really helpful and useful. And particularly if you've got adverse drug reactions. You've got a whole list of things. Well, maybe this thing, whatever the drug is, has got some adverse drug reactions, or there's a signal detection that may be important to know about. And rather than go and try and find around the EMA site as to, well, where do I look and how do I look for it, to have maybe links.
I think it's really a useful comment, and not the first time as well that we've had that comment. As you say, it's complex and there's a lot of different documents. I think the approach that has been taken so far is to try at least to gather the documents together somehow in a single place on the EMA website, which is why you've got these different tabs. And in fact, rather than having links between documents, the idea is that you look behind the different tabs to find the different documents, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best approach. We've also thought about putting, for example, where we refer directly to the package leaflet, why not have a hyperlink so that you can immediately open it rather than going to the other tab? Well, there are just some technical obstacles to doing that, to do with URLs and how they come out for documents which live on the same page behind different tabs. So it just gets, that's the reason we haven't done it so far. But I think we do often hear the same comment, and it's definitely something that we need to look at.
Can I just illustrate a little bit? Because I think what you say is very good, and I like to hear. Maybe it's not perfect, but as Daniel said, this is the approach and this is the intention. And the way that it is presented in the website is that we have clicked one product, Abilify. So all you get here is all the information which is available for this product. And if you go to the assessment report, the entry point for this information is this EPAR summary. So this information that Daniel has been presented is here in a patient-friendly way. But from here, you have all other documents, such as the product information. So you will have all the package leaflet, etc. And then you have all the assessment reports, all the subsequent variations. And then you have additional information because these products, there was a pediatric investigation plan, there was an application which was withdrawn, there was an issue, safety issue. So everything is supposed to be in that way. I think there is still a lot of room for improvement. And as an example as well, what you were mentioning is that the black symbol In a way, it will have to be linked, because even the legislation says that the risk management plan summary and the list of intensively monitored should be cross-linked. So we will have to somehow mark that this product is under additionally monitoring. So the concept is there. There is room for improvement, but this is the way we are trying to work. And I think this has been very much based on also your comments and your feedback received from many years.